Banks were scaring me. They said, आप इतना पैसा भर दो, नहीं तो हम आपका फैक्ट्री का पोजीशन ले लेंगे, आपका मशीनरी का पोजीशन ले लेंगे, आपको बैंक्रप्सी में डाल देंगे. ये literally went to sleep one night as a 100 crore company. In the morning when I woke up, we were a 50 crore company. Suddenly found that we had a union in place at our premise, so we had to tackle that. We had, I mean, if you can think of a problem, we had it at that point of time. The banks started pressurizing us because they ultimately everything is mortgaged to them.
True.
So if they take possession of my factory and all that, we are locked out. So all those kind of things, and then that COVID came in. So
Oh my.
I actively thought that maybe I should exit the business because I am still this thing. But then I had a team. My son had joined my business. So we all sat together and we said, do we fight it out or do we settle everything? And everybody said we should fight it out.
Today, we have Mehul Desai of Mail Order Solutions. I must say, this is one of the most honest confessions made by any guest on Ink Stories. Mehul, at the top of his game, had a turnover of over 100 crores. But one fateful night, his turnover fell by over 50%. There were many reasons for it. One was data privacy, followed by union issues. Third, for various business reasons, he could not furnish his loan. Thereby, he fell on the default list of the banks. He had almost 3 years of sleepless nights, but he came out of it. I'm sure you guys want to know how did he do that. To know about this and more, let's go ahead and watch the episode. Hi Mehul, welcome to Ink Stories.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, it's been a pleasure to have you. I mean, I have seen you over the years, being a part of Print Summit, doing some amazing work there. Yeah. And I always wanted to speak to you, but never got an opportunity. And here we sit together, doing a shoot for Ink Stories. So thank you very much for doing this with us.
Not at all, my pleasure. In fact, I'm so happy to hear that you've been attending Print Summit, and always good to know that people appreciate what we do at BMPA and at Print Summit. So thank you for having me, and look forward to chatting with you.
Great, yeah, that's lovely work. I mean, actually, Print Summit is something where you guys have kind of made this into an association or a work which speaks volumes. I mean, in terms of it's not only about a Mumbai-centric event, but probably looked out by people across the country.
Yeah, I know. And it's an event which takes about 7-8 months of planning, and it's the whole team at BMPA which ably led by Fahim, who heads our Print Summit project. It's always been a pleasure to do that, and when we see the audiences and the hall filling up with people, it gives us a big high.
I'm sure we'll go there in a while. And let's start with your journey. I mean, in terms of what's Mehul Desai, how did he start, what's his journey, where were you born and all that?
It's a long story. I was born in Ahmedabad.
Okay.
I'm from a typical Gujarati family. My father was a school teacher, and then Mamlatdar in the government, and then he joined Dunlop, and he worked with Dunlop for close to about 35 years before retiring. Thanks to his job with Dunlop, we have moved around. I have done a part of my schooling in Ahmedabad, my high school from 8th to 12th in Chennai, and my college in Mumbai. So that's been my journey. And after that, I started working, coming from a family where everybody was, employed somewhere. Mostly in government.
Very unlikely for a Gujarati family.
Yeah, but that was the way it was, and I guess my father was the only person who was employed in the private sector, and he was not a government employee. My mother was a government employee.
Okay.
And so for me it was natural to go into sales and marketing, because my dad is my hero. He's my mentor.
Sure.
Yeah, he's my mentor, and I wanted to be like him. I was always very, very enamored by the world of sales and marketing. So after my graduation, I applied with Procter & Gamble. That time it was known as Richardson Hindustan.
Okay.
And I was one of the few who got selected, and I started working. So that's how my professional journey...
In FMCG?
Yeah, in an FMCG it started. Worked there for some time. I was based in Indore looking after Western MP. And then I joined Modi Xerox. What is Xerox today? It was Modi Xerox. We used to sell copiers and things like that. From there on, I went into a new company called Real Value Appliances, where I was a regional manager and a training manager. And we were selling a new concept, fire extinguishers for home. And that has been a great journey. And then my last assignment was with a company from Jain Irrigation Group called Atlas Digital, which was making key telephone systems and large EPA-BX systems. So my last position was as Vice President Sales and Marketing.
Oh, lovely.
So that's where I was when all of a sudden I got an opportunity, and that's how I got into business.
Let me just hold you there.
Yeah.
But I just want to understand, how many years did you work before you even thought of getting towards business?
I worked for close to about 14 years.
That's quite long.
Yeah,
I mean, we would definitely want to get there in terms of that opportunity that you had to get into business, because very uncanny usually for a middle class family to have their children get into business.
True.
So, let's get into the story about how you get into business.
So it was a very strange thing. My younger sister, she was based in New York. She's still based in New York, and she was consulting a lot of companies on direct marketing. And one of the ways in which most of these direct marketing companies used to acquire customers was by sending direct mailers. So one day she thought of it, and she sent me a few samples, and she said, bro, can you price this out, because I think getting them printed here in India is going to be much cheaper than what we pay here in the US. And I had no clue about printing, etc. But I had a friend to whom I reached out, and he put me on to a few printers, and the packages that my sister had sent had what now I know is the conventional offset printing, and it had a lot of variable data printing. At that time, I had no clue absolutely what it was. But my friend was kind enough to, explain all of those things to me, and he took me to companies which could do these jobs. And the pricing I sent to my sister was very impressive. She came back and she said, Mehul, it's saving 50% for the client. So I said, but yeah, that is one more challenge. We need to reach it to the client. So the cost of shipping and freight will. So she said, let's add that, and we added that up, and still the client ended up saving about 20-25%, and that was a huge saving because they were sending out huge numbers of direct mailers every month, and she got a go ahead from them to do a pilot. So we did an initial pilot of 25,000 direct mailers. It went very well, and that's how my journey in the printing industry started.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of your experience in running a business, did you ever think that after working in a corporate for so long that you wanted to get into business? What was that thing that triggered you कि business करना है? वो बहन ने बताया एक चीज I can understand, but then you're probably at a comfort level at a vice president position.
So typically like a employed person, I played it safe. Initially there was not much of work involved. She was sending me a few samples. I had to get them priced, and then I had to quote for it and get these jobs executed. So whilst continuing to work, I also started this on the side and to see. But as I got into it, and we executed the first pilot, and then we did a couple more, and she started flooding me with inquiries, and I looked at it and I said, this looks like a golden opportunity. Should I or shouldn't I take a risk? And at that point of time, my wife, who's also working, who's also a professional, was doing very well. She was the head of a perfumery in a multinational company.
Great.
And so as far as the home kitchen was concerned, I was not too worried. So I had a chat with my wife, I had a chat with my parents and my sister, and I said, this looks like a good opportunity, we shouldn't let go.
Yeah.
Can I take the risk of jumping ship? And all of them were very, very encouraging. They said, you go ahead, because we are okay with this. And that's how I took the gamble and gave my notice. I had to give about a 3-month notice to quit my job. I did that, and then I got into this full time.
I don't know if you can realize you're going to be inspirational for a lot of people who are working and are going to listen to this video. Someone who's worked for 14 years at a senior position and then taking a decision of starting a business and having done so well for himself. Mail Order Solutions is a name that is known very much in Mumbai, and I'm sure a lot of other cities in India as well.
Yeah.
So give us a sense about mail order solutions. What exactly is mail order solutions?
So the name mail order solutions was thought of was because we were basically doing direct mailing packages. Our journey into printing started doing only this one thing, making direct mailing packages. Now the direct mailing packages that typically came from US had an outer envelope, it had a reply envelope, it had a few brochures, and it had variable data printing in terms of a covering letter where there were a lot of variable data which was utilized. Then there was a response form which also had a lot of variable data. All of these needed to be collated, inserted into the envelope, and sent to the client. So I felt that this was something that we could possibly do it here, because I had a little bit of understanding of what the end purpose of this direct mailers was, but I didn't have the knowledge of the printing industry. So for me it was all new, but the excitement was very high. The road up ahead looked very interesting. And trust me, it took quite a while to get used, because everything I had to do myself.
But I'm sure it must be scary then.
It was a little scary, and it was also a little different, because you see, as a vice president of sales and marketing, I had to pick up a phone and instruct people, do this, do
Get
that.
things done.
Yeah, get things done. I mean, I didn't have to do much, but here I was doing things on my own.
All by yourself.
Everything I had to go to the printing companies where I was outsourcing it, see what was happening, ensure that everything left. So I had nobody else. I was a one-man show. So that's how it started. It was scary, but it was also very, very interesting. So at one point of stage, I said, leave your, fear behind. It's not like as if you were born as vice president. You also started as a sales rep.
Right.
I went back to my days as a sales rep for Procter & Gamble, and the hardships that I had to encounter traveling in MPSRTC buses and all of that, and going to places like Mahou, Neemach and Jhabua. So I said that if you could do that, this is nothing. You are still in Mumbai. So go ahead, keep moving, and it will yield results. And that's how I kept motivating myself. And my family played a big role. They were a huge amount of strength to me. They were very inspirational, and they never allowed me to lose my focus from what I was doing. So here we are.
Yeah, I'm sure it's quite inspirational. I mean, in terms of, going through that, I don't think it's easy, because I've had a similar experience, but I left much earlier. Okay. And I believe to take that, and I was not at a very senior position, so I still could take a jump. Right. Whereas you're working at a senior position and then taking a jump, I don't think so it's that easy. Yeah. So kudos to you in terms of taking a decision and making mail order solutions into a successful company that it is.
And that experience also helped, because you see, when I started my business, though it was a one-man show, as we kept growing, the systems, the policies, etc., which I had learned in all these organizations that I had worked for, it really helped me to shape my company.
Right.
Mail Order Solutions India Private Limited. We call it MOS now, but a lot of things that we do at MOS have come from all these various jobs that I did, various employments that I had, and a lot of learning came from that. So that has also helped me in setting up my company, bringing in systems and processes. And today, one of the things that we pride ourselves at MOS is our systems and processes. We are a very system-driven, very process-driven company.
Lovely. Yeah. Any example that you would want to highlight on which could help our listeners to understand exactly, because बहुत सारे जन ना systems process बात करते हैं, but is there a sense, some example which you could say that was different earlier and you brought a change and which the industry doesn't follow?
I think it would be presumptuous on my part to say the industry doesn't follow, because that wouldn't be right.
I mean, but even if it's a small thing.
For myself, I would say that everything that we did. Now, for example, in my initial days, I was outsourcing everything. There was nothing being done in-house. But I had made a complete process as to how and what is the basis on which the outsourcing has to be done, where it has to be done, and what are the factors that play into it. So there was a document I created. Now this document creation was something which I learned at Xerox, because they were a completely system-driven company. The other thing I learned at Procter & Gamble, Richardson Hindustan, was, you see, I was based in Indore, but I had no boss there. I was a resident rep. I had a stockist that I had to visit, and I was covering about 16 different places in Western MP. At each place, I had a stockist to whom I was visiting. My boss was sitting in Mumbai, and then I had another boss who was sitting somewhere in Jabalpur. they would possibly visit me for a day in a month, but how were they getting the best out of me? So there was a system that they had made where my reporting, we used to popularly say in Richardson Hindustan that you report to a post box, because every day I was posting all the reports, but the system was so flawless that sitting there they could analyze what work I was doing, where I was lagging. So that helped me create systems in MOS which when I was outsourcing, I was able to monitor my vendors where my printing work was done in that manner. Though they might not cooperate, it was my responsibility to ensure that I get that information.
Get that done for them.
At what stage the job is, where it is, what kind of problems we're facing. Because I was also dealing with international clients who expected a certain service level and a certain standard. So it was something that I had to ensure. So on one end I was dealing with print companies here, and on the other end I was dealing with customers who were used to a certain. So this helped me achieve that balance. So that's how. And at each stage of MOS, we ensured that first the system was put into place, and then we ventured into actually doing it.
Okay.
So people coming in also found it very easy that we had manuals which we had prepared. Today in MOS we have a complete manual for each process that we do, and they read that and they get familiar. So that's also become a part of the training that a new guy gets when he comes into MOS.
Interesting. So these are like very good stories to know, and I'm sure so many people are going to like listening to it. So are there like tough times, challenges that you've seen, you would want to share something around that?
Absolutely. I have seen tough times. I can't call it tough times, but things have. You see, when I started and then we start going, so there was the growth was always upwards and upwards and upwards, and somewhere along the line, success makes you complacent. It makes you take things for granted. So a lot of things on hindsight, you realize these were mistakes. So like one of the mistakes that I made was that my company was very heavily dependent on a few customers.
Okay.
2 or 3 customers were contributing 70% to my top line.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I was also focused only on certain niche areas. Now, whilst those niche areas are very good because that became my core strength, it also prevented myself from looking at other areas which I could have developed, because this was doing so well. I felt that I don't need to look at anything else, So I allowed a lot of opportunities to slip by.
Let go.
I said, I'm doing well here. Why bother about adding something and starting afresh on something new? Maybe I could have gone into labels. Maybe I could have done that. This is all on hindsight. But at that point of time, if I would have done, maybe, who knows? So anyways, if things were going well, life teaches you that it is bound to have a few hiccups, and we had n number of hiccups which came about. In the year 2016, I think we lost a couple of very good clients. I literally went to sleep one night as a 100 crore company. In the morning when I woke up, we were a 50 crore company because I had lost 2 clients who were contributing nearly 50% of my top line.
That was the kind of impact.
That's the kind of shock I had. I had done a lot of investments, capital heavy investments. I had bank loans which I had to service, and I was left wondering as to how the hell am I going to service this, and I had 300 people on my payroll. So where do I go from here, because I now don't have work, and it's not that if I've lost clients you can lose clients overnight, but to develop those type of clients, it had taken me close to about 15 years.
And 50% of that is going to be wiped out one night.
Yeah, one night. So I was like, what?
That was because of COVID, or was it because of the digital transformation?
It was a multiple reasons. One of the major factors was at that point of time, each country was coming up with their own data policy, and a lot of countries required that data not be sent cross-border.
Oh, right.
So that impacts. So a lot of my clients could not send their data because the country didn't allow it. So that's the reason why. So there were loopholes in the policy which needed to be. But the instant reaction from people was that we want to remain compliant with the laws of the country, so we will not send data out. Afterwards, they came to realize that, okay, financial data is not to be sent out. Generic data, you have certain exceptions, etc., etc., etc. So there were ways in which we could have handled this, but the initial reaction that my clients
Usually
had,
people have a knee-jerk reaction to anything.
yeah, exactly.
And that would have impacted the business.
So I lost business because of that. Also, digital was, e-form of communication was becoming popular. So people, and it was cheaper. So people wanted to see whether their response levels are maintained if they say they send an emailer rather than a physical mailer,
Right.
So all of those things contributed to us losing clients. Add to that, we got a lot of other problems, like we suddenly found that we had a union in place at our premise, so we had to tackle that. We had, I mean, if you can think of a problem, we had it at that point of time, and it required us to really come together and think about what we should do. At one stage, I actively thought that maybe I should, exit the business because I am still this thing. But then I had a team. My son had joined my business, so we all sat together and we said, do we fight it out or do we, settle everything? And everybody said we should fight it out. And we didn't know what we were getting into, but we had to let go of a lot of people because we were suddenly half our size. We couldn't afford to service our bank loans. I had to default on them. I became a defaulter in the national banking system. All kinds of challenges, and with that, the banks started pressurizing us because they ultimately everything is mortgaged to them.
True.
So if they take possession of my factory and all that, we are locked out. So all those kind of things, and then that COVID came in. So
Oh my.
we were completely shut down for 5-6 months. It really took a toll on us, and we didn't know what we were going to do. But like I said, there are good times and then there are bad times, and then again good times. We stuck it out. We fought. We did whatever we had to do. We had to let go of a lot of people. I had to run from pillar to post to settle with the bank. I had to sell a lot of assets that we had. But at the end of it, by 2021, we had more or less taken care of all of these things. I got out of the bank trap. I was able to settle with the bank, no longer an NPA. We are now again back on the growth phase where
Nice.
we were a loss-making company. We are now looking at break even, and business is looking good. Business is looking robust thanks to my son Prithviraj having taken over. He has a very different outlook on business compared to me. I am old school. He is a younger chap, more tech savvy, more worldly, experience. So he's giving what we call now in MOS as what I did was MOS 1.0, and what he's doing is MOS 2.0, and it's looking good.
Lovely. I would want to know more about Prithviraj, but before we go there, you really were honest and spoke what you spoke here. I mean, hats off to you to be able to come and say this publicly. In terms of
Trust me, I have never shied away from just the way my success I celebrated with people. I have also shared my failure. I'd like to tell you that the day I ran into this problem, the first thing I did was I was at that point of time part of the BMPA, and I told my committee members at BMPA, this is what is happening, and I may have a lot of difficulties. I may default on vendor payments. I may have issues, and people, being a committee member of BMPA, I don't want anything happening in my business to impact BMPA. So whoever I have, I mean, what's there? It's a business failure. It's not a crime or something that I should be ashamed of. The way I have celebrated my success with people, I have shared my failure also.
That's lovely. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Let me tell you, not many people have the guts to speak the way you speak. So hats off to you again on that point.
Thank you.
The important thing that I want to bring out, which might help a lot of people who are listening, that कि जब कोई failure hota hai, it is not a failure of the person. It is just a business situation. You just have to leave across. Yeah. So if you can kind of give a little bit more deeper sense in terms of what you went through those days and how did you come out of it?
Okay, so I tell you, first thing that happens when, like, I'll take one example. One of the problems that I faced was I became an NPA. Okay, so you're a defaulter. Okay, the first thing that you feel forget the people. The first thing you feel is a sense of shame, because I'm not a businessman. I come from a middle class family. My father was working for a multinational company. In my whole life, I have not had an instance where I might have bounced a check also, So that's the kind of a person
Background,
that I was, and that's the kind
the
of
reality
background
that
I
you had.
have. And all of a sudden, I am NPA. Okay. The shame that comes with it, like the bank is coming and putting up notices outside your office that, this premises now is in possession of XYZ, because world comes to know, and you are wondering, as to how will you face the world. Getting out of your bedroom was a challenge, because people have seen you as this huge successful businessman, and all of a sudden you have fallen on bad days. What will people think? And that's where family comes in. That's where the support of the family, and my family is the reason that I was able to face this, because they told me, they said, Mehul, this does not define you as a person.
True.
The business that Mehul Desai runs and the person that Mehul Desai are two different things. So don't take it personally. It's a business. You have to face it. You take it. So that was there. I had a lot of good friends who have supported the friendships and the associations that I have built at the BMPA. These guys were like, Mehul, we are with you. What is it that you want to do? Right from financial help to, okay, we'll get you new clients. I was overwhelmed with the kind of support that I got from all my friends across the industry and my friend circle outside, and that gave me the strength to face this, and that gave me the courage to go out and talk to the bank, because banks were scaring me. They said, आप इतना पैसा भर दो, नहीं तो हम आपका फैक्ट्री का पोजीशन ले लेंगे, आपका मशीनरी का पोजीशन ले लेंगे, आपको बैंक्रप्सी में डाल देंगे. ये you get worried, because you are
Can
also.
I get a essence of what number is the bank talking about that they want to pay? They want you to pay back?
I had a borrowing of something close to about 20 crores. Okay. So I had to pay back.
Which is not like possible to be paid
it's
like
not
this.
like this, as businessmen, we don't have.
You don't keep 20 crores.
Yeah, you don't. It's all in.
It's all
investment.
rolling.
The machinery, the stock, the offices that we have bought, and all of those things. So it's not. I was trying to tell the bank that I have these offices. I had a fairly large office, and I said, I'll sell this and I'll pay you your money. Let's come to a reasonable amount and settlement, and a way in which I can do it. It's not that I can sell an office worth 20 crores overnight. I'll have to find the buyers. I'll have to do this. You can't keep. But banks also have their processes. I don't blame them. They're doing their job, and particularly in light of the scams that were happening in banks in those times, we had one after the other major scams. So banks were even more particular and cautious, and they wanted to follow their processes. So it was just bad timing, but it scared me, and that's when family, friends, they played a role. They gave me that courage, and I was able to go out and face these guys and talk to them. And trust me, I was breaking my head for nearly 2.5, 3 years to resolve this. And then when it happened, it just happened in a 30-day time. Till then.
What is this 3-day time?
I found a buyer who was interested. We went to the bank. We talked to the bank. The bank said, this is what we want. Buyer said, this is what I can do. I can give you money in one go, but these are the assurances I want. We had 5-6 meetings, and then it was done.
Oh,
and this thing was over.
And you came off the NPA.
It takes after you have settled the bank, then there are processes that you have to do, which we completed, and all that. It takes about 6 months to come out of that NPA stage. But we are now way behind on that, and we've put it past. Today we have no debts. MOS is a debt-free company. Wow. We have no borrowings. Wow. Whatever we are doing with our own funds. We are not taking a single rupee from anybody. So that's giving me a lot of peace of mind.
Yeah.
And Prithvi, my son, has devised a very different strategy for MOS 2.0, and he's pursuing that.
Let's go towards Prithvi. I want to know about him. When you told me over the conversation that he's from ISB Hyderabad, and how did you convince him to be a part of the business, and why? He could have so many other options.
He did his BE in electronics and telecommunication.
Oh, nice.
And then he had job offers on the campus itself when
sure.
he was in the final year. In fact, he had 3 job offers. One of them was from Wipro. One of them was from a company called Cactus Communication. The third one I'm forgetting. And I was pretty sure that he'll opt for Wipro. And Prithvi being Prithvi, he said, no, I'm going for Cactus Communication. Cactus Communication I hadn't heard of. But he had done his research and he was very convinced that he wants to go there. So he joined there, and after joining there, he was doing well. He worked there for, I think, close to about 4 years. And that's when I had a chat with him. I said, where do you see your career going? Do you want to continue in this? Because I have only one son. I have no other this thing. So I said, do you want to come into business? And he was not very convinced about it. We kept talking. It doesn't happen overnight. We kept talking over a period of time. And then one day he got his promotion and he was very excited, and he said, I'm now at the next level and I'm making this much money and all of that. I said, good for you. Still, my offer remains open to you. He said, Pa, I have just been promoted. I don't think I'll consider your offer at all. 6 months later, he comes to me on his own and he says, Pa, my job hasn't changed. What I was doing as sub-editor, I am doing as editor. I mean, I'm not learning anything new, and my thing is that I want to learn something new.
True.
So I said, that's where MOS comes in. Do consider. So he thought about it. Then again he came to me and said, okay, I'm willing to join. I said, but there's one condition that I am putting across to you. You can't come in and after 3 months come and say, okay, Pa, this is not my cup of tea, I'm quitting. If you're coming in, you have to give me 3 years. At the end of 3 years, if you feel that, this is not your cup of tea, I will not stop you. But give it 3 years. Full 3 years proper, because that's how long it'll take you to understand what this industry is, what this work is, and all of those things.
True.
He agreed to it. He came in, and touch wood, luckily for me, he is now the guy who is running the company. I am the, if you want to call it anything, the glorious past of MOS.
He's the 2.0.
He's the today and the tomorrow.
Future of MOS, and great to know about it.
Yeah.
And wish him all the luck.
Thank you.
Hope he prospers and takes it to even greater heights than where you could take it.
Though I was an average student, my mother always felt that I'm somebody who has the intelligence to do anything. But I never lived up to my potential as a student. I was more interested in playing cricket and having fun with my friends rather than sitting with books. And my sister always used to come first in this thing. So when the progress report cards used to come home, whilst there was a lot of joy because she's either come first or second, there used to be a lot of sadness because either I flunked in 2 subjects or 3 subjects. So my mother had this thing. So to make her feel good, at the age of 50, I enrolled myself at IIM Bangalore, and I did a management course. Though I was one of the oldest students, I had classmates who were 24 and 28 years old, as old as my son. But I did it because I felt that maybe I can add something.
Fresh perspective.
Yeah, whilst I have the experience, and experience has taught me a lot of things, there are a lot of other things which I may have missed. So evolve with times, learn new things, and that's what the print industry is all about.
True. Actually, what you're saying is very correct, and I just want to highlight that as a question and just reaffirm your answer in terms of one piece of advice to the printers who are listening to this, especially the ones who are the smaller ones and or stuck in their business. They're not being able to. मेरे को कुछ समझ नहीं रहा. I'm not being able to grow, or I am I believe you can understand what I'm trying to say. Looking at various printers. So one piece of advice for them.
One piece of advice is develop your skill sets. You already have so many years of experience, which has taught you so many things. But sit down and be brutally honest with yourself. Which are the skill sets that you're missing? Keeping in mind today's business environment. Today's business environment is very different from the business environment it was there 20 years back.
True.
Okay. Keeping all of those things in mind, realize what you are missing out on, and start developing those skill sets. And you don't have to go far. Everything is available on your phone. You have Google, which will help you. You have, like social, like a lot of printers. I come, social media हमको समझ में नहीं आता है, क्या करें इसके बारे में? There's a beautiful course which is offered by Google, which is free of cost.
Yeah.
Okay, learn the basics.
Correct.
Understand what this is all about.
Correct.
Understand how the social media works. What are bots, or what are this, or what are that? try and evolve.
Make an attempt.
Yeah, make an attempt. You will find that it also will add a lot of value to your business and how you do business, because there is nothing that can stop you if you are willing to learn new skill sets. And it is very important in business to learn, and that's where what my advice to every businessman is, that don't just stay put where you are. Try and learn new skill sets, develop new skill sets, join a new there are some wonderful coaching classes for businessmen, for businessmen who had 10 years of experience, 5 years of experience, 15 years, as to how to automate your business so that you can focus on the future of the company, and the running of the company is left to the automation that you've created within the organization. So do those things which allows you more time, and which allows you to look at other things. Like I said earlier, when I was doing well, I was so focused on my niche that maybe I allowed a lot of opportunities to slip
Pass by.
Yeah. Because I didn't take them seriously. I said, hoga, dekha jayega. But today I realize on hindsight that maybe at that point of time, if I would have paid heed, maybe I would have had an equally thriving another business.
Correct.
So that's the thing.
Evolve. You are the right role model for anyone to make that statement, because there are either people who have failed, who have not succeeded, तो उनके बात का मतलब नहीं है.
Correct.
और जिसने सिर्फ success देखा है, उससे भी. But you coming up and saying that, and you've been able to turn around.
Right.
That's the very important factor for people to understand that yes, there's this gentleman sitting and he has done this. So can you recalibrate your business, re-understand your business.
Correct. Yeah. So that's my advice to people, and keep looking at technology, because that's the way the world is going to go. Everything today every business that you can think of, okay, education, it's now called edtech. Okay, there's so much technology coming into even education.
Correct.
Every business, finance, there's fintech.
Yeah.
Okay. So technology is going to be there everywhere.
Yeah.
So don't be scared
Identify
of it.
your niche, what you can do.
Don't be scared of it. Learn.
Yeah.
Learn. It may take time, but you will get to learn something new, and it may show you a path which, who knows, will lead to your next big success. Yeah.
Great. Actually, well said, and good pointers for people to ponder over. I'm sure. I think we've had a pretty interesting conversation. As much as I would love it to be even longer and ask a lot more questions that I have, I would, for the paucity of time, I would want to just cut it short and move towards the last two questions, which we generally ask all our guests in terms of getting a perspective for how we are doing this episode. So like, I have seen you though from a distance, and I have liked your work. I like the way you speak. I like the way you put things in perspective. That's wonderful. And I wanted to have you on the show. So like that, would you have some other people that you have in mind whose story you think would be worthwhile for people to know and listen?
Oh yeah, there are so many.
Some names that you can.
So many people whom I can think of. There is Mr. Fahim Akbotwala.
I think he's in the popular list number 1.
Yeah.
So he's practically his name has been taken.
Yeah. Then there is Mr. Amit Shah. There's Mr. Nitin Shah. Okay.
Nitin Shah.
Mr. Nitin Shah from Award Packaging.
Award Packaging.
Yeah.
Yes.
You could speak to him.
Yes.
There are so many. You've just asked me. So these are people I meet every day. So I thought of them. There's another very young printer in Pune called Sahil, who's also somebody that
what
does
is the name
interest.
of his press?
I'm forgetting the name of his press, but I can give it to you offline. Then there are a lot of people who are young, who are full of energy, and who are very optimistic about our industry. You could speak to them. The names that I could think of top of my head.
Sure. I think that's nice. I would connect with you later and probably get these contacts of some of the names which I don't know of. And moving towards the last question, in terms of, we started this podcast for the print industry, for people to share their stories, their journey, their successes, their challenges. So, we've done this with you, and how do you find it in terms of how did you find the entire episode, and could we do anything better, or some insights for us?
So I'll tell you, the first episode that I saw of yours was the one which you did with Prakash Kansar. And I immediately wrote to Prakash. I said, Prakash, you and I meet so often, we talk so often, but hearing about your journey through this episode, man, hats off to you. I have become a fan of yours, and I was very happy to hear about him, from where he has come to what he has this thing, and he was like, Mehul, thank you so much. So you're doing a great job of bringing out people's story, their background, their passion, because there are so many people I meet in printing industry. They're not only passionate about their printing work that they do, but they have so many other interests also, and they're so passionate about those also, and they pursue those also so enthusiastically. And they're doing well in that also. So if all of those things can be brought out, the community gets to know that everybody is not unidimensional. People have multiple and varied interests. So great work. Keep it up, and keep getting more and more interesting people to talk about our industry, because our industry needs that exposure.
That's the whole idea. Great, Mehul. Thanks for your time.
Not at all. My pleasure.
It was wonderful having you over.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.